Hello everyone and welcome to the second session of Android development with Kotlin. So I don't want you to bore with details of what we are going to learn today. I am just gonna show you. Let me show. Okay, so this is the first app which we will try to build today. So it's simple about me app where you will write your name, your nickname, and scroll down for the introduction. And we will obviously learn a few things by doing this. And after that, if the time permits, we will also try to build another app. It's basically to learn all the layouts, constraint layout, and it's also very simple. I mean, it's nothing complex as an app. So let's see how we can proceed. So first of all, as usual, let's create a project. Start with empty activity. Name will be about me. Package name is fine. Save location fine. Don't forget to select Kotlin here, okay? And yeah, finish. Let's wait a couple of seconds for Gradle build and then we will continue. Okay. So in this lecture we will extensively use the design view, if you remember. So in activity menu we have three options here: code, split, and design. And today we are going to use this design thing extensively. Okay, let's just wait. Okay, fine. So first of all, if you remember the last lecture, we changed this Android constraint layout to linear layout, and we are going to do the same today also. So let's select both and instead write linear layout. So if you don't remember what exactly linear layout was, this image might help you. So essentially it aligns all the views in either vertically, so one view on the top of other and like stacked one on top of the other, and another option we have the horizontal linear layout, which is just side by side placing all the views. And if you remember, everything is a view, so essentially like text, image, so all these things are views only. Okay, so we change this to linear layout. This is fine, this is fine. I don't think we need this, and this also. So let's remove this. Let's remove this also, and let's remove all these constraints. So in linear layout we don't have any constraint. We will study the constraint layout later. Later in this lecture only. Okay, so I guess it's fine. Yeah. So one thing I want to do here is, if you remember, wrap content is basically the width that only is required. So it's the view will only take the minimum width that is required, and which is the width of the hello world here. So we are going to change it to match parent. Okay, and let's go to design view, and we are going to do a lot more things here. And for better view, let's change this here to show system UI. Yeah, now this looks a little better. And let's see what we can do here in the design. So width is fine, hello world is text. So if you remember, in the last session we discussed that we try to keep all the hard-coded things as resources. So we have hard-coded hello world here, but it will be better if we create a string resource for it. So let's do the same. Now create string value. So resource name, let's say name, because essentially this is going to store our name, and its value is, I am going to store Sanchit Arora. You can store whatever you want. Okay, cool. So Sanchit Arora, and we change this here, and now it's time to do some more things. So So first thing is text size. If you notice, the text size is written as default by 14 SP. So in the last session we discussed that we try to use DP, which is density independent pixel, instead of like hard-coded pixels. So now what is SP is slightly more advanced version of DP. So DP considers the density of the screen. So if your density is, let's say, 100 for one device and 200 for the another, then it will keep the width constant in both the devices. Now what SP does is it takes care of the default font size settings also. So let's say if some user has in his phone set that I want to view larger text, so default setting, so therefore it is SP. So SP basically stands for scale independent pixel. And it's a good practice to use SP for all the font size stuff, but still use DP for all the margins, paddings and all that stuff. Okay, so what we are gonna use is, let's see, so 14 looks too small, so let's put it 20 and see if it's any good. Yeah, it looks okay, I guess. And then text color. Okay, so if you can see the text color here, it's saying Android color something something something. So this gives us a hint that we can put Android color. So Android color and let's say black. So let's put it black. Yeah. Okay, fine. And text alignment, we want to align it in center. Okay, and let's see what we can. So font family, let's browse it, and you can see that we have a couple of fonts here. If you want, you can choose any of this, and I'm gonna go with more fonts. Let's see what is better. Okay, so let's go with cursive so that you can see the difference. Okay, great. So we put the font family as cursive, we change the width, we also put the text as string resource, we change the alignment, we change the color, and we change the text size. Okay, let's change, let's put it also in a resource, dimension resource. So new dimension value, let's say the resource name is text size and resource value is 20 SP. Dimension, okay, cool. Yeah, this looks good, I guess. So let's see the code first. So width is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, this is fine, and this looks good. Okay, so we have our name here, and now we will continue to the next thing we want to do. So now if you are familiar with HTML, CSS and basic web development stuff, you know that when we provide styles to something, we want, if you want to provide similar or same styles to a lot of things, we try to give it a class and give all that style to that class only. Okay, so let's say we want to do the same here. So for example, we want two text views here with exactly similar size, similar style, sorry. Okay, now we have a bunch of things here which are exactly the same, like font family, text might be different, but let's say, so font family, text alignment, text color, text size, all this is essentially the styles we will want to keep same, let's say. So what we can do here is, okay, what's this? Okay, so it's giving an error, let's see. So the default is horizontal, yet it has multiple. Okay, so first it's saying that no orientation is specified. Okay, so I forgot that the linear layout demands an orientation. So orientation, and we want it to be vertical. Yeah, cool. So let's see the design now. So what we are going to do is select this, and this, this is the component tree. So it gets useful when we have a lot of components, one above the other, so it's easier to select from here. So we are gonna select the first text view, right click it and select refactor and extract style. So right click the text view, select refactor and extract style and style name. Okay, so let's say name style. Now it's saying that what all attributes we want to put in the size. Okay, so I want font family, probably yes. Font text alignment, no, because I mean for all the text after other than this we won't be centering all of that. Okay, so we don't need this. We need text size, we need text color, we need font family, but we don't need this. And actually let's do one more thing, add some margin here. Okay, so let's search. Okay. So margin top, and let's give the margin, let's see, 16 dp maybe. Yeah, I guess 16 dp is fine. So let's put it also in a resource. So layout margin. What happened? Why it not showing? Let's see. Resources, values, dimension, layout margin. Oh, I think I forgot to write the value. So 16 dp and then let's close this. Yeah, and extract this style now. So we don't want width, we don't want height, we want margin top, we want font family, we don't want text alignment, we want text color and text style, and write the name style here. Click on OK, and obviously you won't see any change because we just extracted. Let's see here. So now it is write style equal to style underscore name style. So if you remember that this is basically a way to use all the resources. So in dimension you use diamond, for string you use string, like this. So let's try to find the style thing here. So in values we have styles. So we have all the styles here, and obviously you can add more styles here if you want. For now we are gonna leave it, and let's clean up this code also. So font family is covered in that, text should be different, text color is same, text size is same. Okay, so now we are gonna assign it style equal to style slash name style. Let's see the design. So it also got the margin top we assigned to this, and that's basically dry principle in programming. So don't repeat yourself. So if you're gonna use same or similar styles for more than one thing, try to extract it as a style. Okay, and now if you remember in the last session we discussed adding an image. So let's try to add an image using the design view. So you can see a lot of things are here, and you can just drag and drop anything. For now let's just add image view. Okay, let's see. Now this is something great about Android Studio. So you don't have to specify the image just like we did the last time for the dice roller app. So you have a couple of example images if you want, but the really great thing is you can go a little down, and there are a couple of icons you can choose from. So there is a lot of icons. So I'm gonna go for a star image maybe. So star. Yeah, this looks good. Yep, this is fine. Now if you go to code, essentially this is this is giving the image the src. So the source is obviously given. I mean without source you cannot put anything. So layout width, match parent, wrap content, it's fine. Let's give it some margin. So margin top, and if you remember we extracted it as a dimension, so layout margin. Cool. Yep, now it also has the margin. And let's see, so it's giving a warning here. Let's see, image without content description and insufficient image contrast ratio. So we are gonna ignore this insufficient image contrast ratio. I mean, you can choose a better star image if you want, but I'm gonna go ahead with this only. Now let's look at this. So missing content description attribute. So so basically what it's saying is that every image should ideally have a content description, and it is basically for the screen reader. So if your app is used by a screen reader, then it doesn't know how to read an image, right? So if you provide a content description for that image, that screen reader will read that. Okay, so I mean, this star image is for just decoration purpose, so I'm also gonna ignore this warning also. But if you want, you can definitely like put a content description attribute, right? So let's remove this thing. I mean, this was just for showcasing you. Yeah, now if you remember what we are gonna build is, let me show you again. Okay, so this is what we are gonna build. So the top name is done. What is your nickname, and this button we will do later. So let's first go into this introduction thing. Okay, so as you might guess, introduction is nothing but a text view. So we will drag and drop text view from here, and let's say what we can do with this. Now line text view match parent text. So let's actually center this also. Yeah, and it will be better if we write the string first. So let's go here, well, extract string resource. So let's call this about string.xml about go to strings. Now for the purpose of this session, I really want you to write something long here. I'm just gonna grab my introduction from the website. Let's wait a second. So okay, sorry for this. So write this. Yeah, remove the empty lines. Okay, okay, so this is giving an error apostrophe. Yeah, so for every quote you have to put a backslash. So I am 0 backslash here, and now yeah, I guess we are good to go. So let's see the design first. I think this is long enough. Let's do some changes actually to make it even more. So font size, okay, text size 20 sp. Yeah, I mean, you can obviously change all this stuff. I'm just doing it because I want to show you something. And margin left. Okay, so for margin I want to show you something actually. Let's go here and margin. So I mean, you have margin which applies margin to all the four sides. You have margin top which obviously applies to top. You have bottom which obviously applies to bottom. but other than that you have start left and end or right. So you might get confused with, what is the difference between end and right, and what is the difference between start and left. So left is obviously left, right is obviously right, and start and end basically is same as left and right in most of the cases. But for languages like Arabic, which start from the right side but end on the left side, so in that case the start will be actually right. So for our purposes, obviously we will only put left. Mostly you will not do anything with margin start and margin end anytime. 20 dp, okay. Yeah, now the text is big enough, but I think the spacing between each line of the text is not, it's very less. So let's increase the spacing. So it's basically, in CSS it's called line height. So let's try to put line height. It was suggesting line spacing multiplier, but let's for now put line height only. Okay, and we don't know what to put here, so let's over it. Attribute line height is only used. Okay, no issue. So explicit height between lines of text. So it will explicitly set the height of the line as we saying, but read after if set, this will override the values set for line spacing extra and line spacing multiplier. So as I suggested in the previous lecture also, we try to hardcode as little things as possible. So if we can obviously write something like 30 dp here and it will work perfectly. But let's say you wake up tomorrow and you want to change the font size. Okay, so you will have to change the font size, but then the line height will not look very good. So what we do instead is line spacing multiplier. Now let's hover over it and see what it's saying. Extra spacing between lines as a multiplier. Okay, so it basically multiplies it. So we will do 1.5 and remove this. Yeah, that looks good. And what we can, okay, so it's actually still small introduction. Let's also add a margin top 20 dp. Okay, so if you remember, we are gonna add the button and all that stuff here. So for now, just duplicate this star image. Yeah, now it's fine. So as you can see, the text is basically overflowing the screen. So you might think that we will just scroll down and see the text. So let me show you on my phone live demo that what's happening. Just wait a second for Gradle build. Okay, so we duplicated the ID. Remove this. Yeah. Okay, so what's the error? Let's see. Failed to compile values. So colors, fine, dimension, string, style. Okay, actually I guess the error is here. So first of all, let's actually put this. I don't know why it's not showing error here. It should show. Let's try to remove these codes. Okay, weird, no issue. Let's try now if it works. Cool, it worked. Now let me actually show you my phone screen. Just a second. close this. Yeah, so this is the phone screen. What was the introduction looking like? Strings, believe me, wish me luck. Oh shit, unfortunately my phone screen is a little long. Okay, yeah, let's do one thing. Margin left, let's say 25, 25, or maybe even 30. Let's try with 30. Let's run the app. Let's see if it overflows. Okay, cool. It overflows slightly. So let me try to scroll down. So the little dot you see is actually my touch. My finger. So as you can see, it's not scrolling down. So this means that whatever view we put here, it is not going to scroll down. And obviously that is something we don't need. We want users to be able to read our text, right? We want them to scroll. So what Android provides us for scrolling is a scroll view. Scroll view. So width is match parent. Let's close this and okay. Now essentially what scroll view does is it allows whatever view is inside it to scroll. So in many cases actually you will see that scroll view has a linear layout inside, which in turn has multiple layouts like text, views, etc. This is because scroll view can have only one single child, direct child. Okay, so people use scroll view as a parent of a linear layout, and everything they put inside the linear layout. So essentially everything looks like it can be scrolled. Now since we have only one text view, we don't need to put any linear layout, and this text view should be able to scroll now. And for better visibility, let me increase this further to 40. Try to build it again and show you on the device. Yeah. So as you can see, I am able to scroll, but only this text. Okay, so this is because obviously we put only the text view here. So all these things are fixed, and anything inside the scroll view is scrollable. But I noticed one more thing. At the bottom, I think some text is getting cut off. So let's see what's the problem here. So in here, let's scroll down. Okay, it's not showing here also. So what we can do is actually give some margin bottom. Let's say 20 dB. No, sorry. So instead of margin, now this should work. Yeah. So at this time I think it's worth mentioning you about what exactly are padding, margins, etc. Let me show you an image. Okay, so this is same in web development, if you are doing Android development with any other framework. So this is essentially same in everything. So we have the main content here and we have a border. Okay, so any space which is between the content and the border is known as padding, and anything which is outside the border is known as margin. Essentially both margin and padding is same. It's just space, and if you are not using border, visually it will not create any difference if you use padding and or margin. Okay, so padding is basically the space of that element only, whereas margin is space to separate this element with any other element. So I mean, it kind of takes some hit and try to figure out what exactly is working and what not. And in some cases, like in CSS, I think if you have two elements on one on the top of each other and they have both vertical margin as, let's say, 5 pixel, then instead of a gap of 5 plus 5 equal to 10, it will still have 5 pixel. Okay, so margin kind of overlaps in case of CSS. It's not same in case of Android. So I'm just saying that it requires a little hit and try. So what essentially was happening here, we put the margin. So margin separated this text view from the scroll view. But as I said you before, the scroll view should have a direct child without anything in between, not even space. And now I think it looks good. So let's try to run this app, and I will show you on the live device also. What's this saying? Padding bottom not found. Okay, how is the layout got here? I don't know. Yeah. So let me show you now. So hello, and now wish me luck. Yeah, this is the last line. So now we are able to scroll everything we want. If you want, you can, as I said, put a linear layout directly inside the scroll view and put everything inside that so that whole page becomes scrollable. Okay, that's something you can definitely try, but for now I am not gonna do that. And now it comes to the next thing we want to do, which is taking input from the user. So if you remember the app, we want to take an input. Let's again go to the design view, and input is essentially text. Let me zoom out a little. So let's go to text. Okay, let's see the image what we want to do. Okay, yeah. So we have name, then the text input, then button, and then star. So let's remove the top star for now. Press the delete button, and we have a lot. So as you can see, we have a text view, we have a plain text, password, email, blah blah blah, and a lot of things. But if you notice, we don't have a line below the text view AB. Okay, so here we don't have a little line below plain text AB. We have a little line, we have a little line here, so we have a little line below AB in all these cases, right? So this line indicate that this is an input. So text view is essentially just text, either hard coded or dynamically put or anything, but it is not taking user input. Everything else takes user input and applies certain restriction to it. So if you use phone input, so it will change your keyboard to numbers and it will make sure that the user is entering a phone. If you use email, then it will like put the @ sign in the keyboard. It will make sure that it is a valid email. Okay, so plain text is just plain text. It will not restrict anything. And for now we want the nickname of the user, so we will use plain text only. So let's put it here. Okay, delete this. Now let's see what all things are available here. Okay, first, let's give it the style. So @ style / name style. So it got the margin, it got the font size, it got everything we wanted. Okay, so now let's see one thing. So what I want is input type. So let's say, sorry, yeah. Okay, so let's see what all things are available here. So input type, so let's see what it is. So we have a bunch of input types here, and it also is similar thing. So if you put number, user can enter number. Since you, if you want like email, you can have email, date, I mean a lot of things, and you can obviously have more than one thing selected. We have text selected here. Okay, so we are going to click apply. Let's text. Okay, so we want person name. So where is text? Now another thing is a hint. Yeah, so when, I mean, in the input case, we don't want anything to be written beforehand, so let's remove this text. Okay, yeah, so now it's an empty input. Now you need a way to tell the user that you should enter your nickname here or whatever. Okay, so in the hint thing, we write something like, what is your nickname? So it comes, I mean, if as soon as you like focus on the input and you start typing, it will go away. It's just to tell the user that you should write here. And as you know, we don't hardcode a lot of things, so let's create a string resource. So I'm gonna name this thing as nickname hint, and value, what is your nickname? Okay, cool. So at this point, I think it will be better to show you by running the live app. Just wait a second. Okay, great. So we have it here. So what is your nickname? And we can type anything. Okay, and we can press enter, but as you can see, like nothing really happens, right? So we want to do something. Okay, so let's add the button here. If you remember the done button, let's go to the design tab, remove this image, button, drag and drop the button, and let's rename the text to done. Okay, and let's put this into string value. Done. Text alignment, I don't think it will matter, right? Yeah. So let's go to the code thing. Button, we don't need text alignment. Yeah, if you like remember from the last session, we now know that how to do something on the press of a button, right? So we are going to do the same here. So let's go to main activity.kt, and on create we will have an on click listener, right? If you remember it. So we need to find that button first. So find view by ID. I don't remember if I gave that button an ID, so let's see. Oh, it's already have an ID. Let's change it to done button. Yeah, this makes more sense. Remove this. So ID essentially is what, I mean, if you drag and drop something in the design tab, it's automatically given an ID. That's why we had that ID. Okay, so with done button, we go to main. So find view by ID, and in the triangular braces we write the type of the view. Okay, so it's a button, Android widget, and the ID is I mean, if you remember, we don't type ID like this. What we instead do is we go to the resource object, which is R and ID, and then done button. So this essentially is the button, and then we want to set the on-click listener on it. So dot set on-click listener. Now if you remember, last time we also did this, talked about Lambda functions essentially. Let me take you again. So I mean, we talked about that this is essentially a function which is going to take input A and result in A into 2. So let's try to write it. And if you remember, actually in the last session I told you that if the last input is a function, we don't need this parenthesis. And I don't remember, I mean, who asked this, that why do we do it? And the answer is that it's such a small thing. If you don't want to do it, you don't have to. But the thing is, you should know what all things are available. So if you are looking to contribute to some open source project, you work with someone, then you should know that this thing exists. And the main thing in the big project is just convention. So if you decide you don't want to use it, don't use it ever in the project. Okay. But if you decide to use it, make sure you use it always. So I personally like to use it, so I'm gonna use it. Okay. So let's say the view is v, and we will declare a function, let's say add nickname, and it will take v. Let's first create a function so that it don't gives the error. Add nickname, it takes a view. I mean, view is just a name, but we specify the type, which is view. And then we will do something cool. Now what I want to tell you is, in Lambda functions we have another short thing. So let's just say I rename this v to IT. I mean, it's essentially just name, right? We can do anything. If you want, you can do like lol. I mean, let's say you want this, so this is also gonna work. I mean, there is no problem here. Okay, so let's just do IT. Now IT essentially is a special thing in Kotlin actually. So this is going to work definitely, but you can do is remove this thing here. Yeah, so let me explain it. So IT gives IT into 2. This thing is same as IT into 2. Okay. Now IT is special here. You can't just replace it with A. I mean, you can do it like this, but this thing is wrong. So A into 2. This is wrong. This will give something like A not defined or something like this. But IT, it assumes that it's a parameter it will take and return this value. So we will just call this and this. Now we are going to do something, and what we want to do is, let me write the steps. So first take the nickname text, take the nickname text basically. Okay, and now what we want to do is, I mean, as soon as the user press the done button, the text input field should be gone. Okay, so we want the text input to be gone. So remove text input. After this, we want to remove the button also, and after that we want to, we didn't do that yet, but what we want is display the nickname somewhere, obviously. Okay, so let's try to do these things. So we are going to take the text input, So again, find view by ID. I hope you guys remember that there is a more efficient way of doing this. But if you remember that we are going to call this function only once, right? Because as soon as we call it, the then button will be gone. So it will not matter, but I shall hope that you remember it. So find view by ID. The type is edit text, and the ID is what? Okay. So ID is, let's say, nickname edit. So r.id.nickname edit. Cool. So we got the text input. We want the nickname text view, and actually we want to create it first. So let's duplicate it. Style, we don't want this thing here, and actually let's show you something. Go to split. Now as you can see, the text view is taking space even after removing the text. Okay, so let me lol. Okay, so we initially want the nickname text view to not be visible to the user first, and also should not take any space. So what we can do is, obviously this is something related to visibility, right? So let's try writing visibility and see what's come. So visibility and cursor visible, obviously we want visibility. Gone, invisible, and visible. So visible is obviously the default value. Now we have gone and invisible. So invisible is essentially, yeah, so it will not be visible to the user, but it will still take the space. But we don't want it to take the space, so we will write gone. So it's not taking any space. We will change it later when the user is done with writing their nickname. So we don't want the text also right now. Okay, so nickname text view. Let's give ID nickname text. So find view by ID. It's a text view, and its ID is nickname text. Okay, cool. Now let's do all the things. So nickname text view. So first is take the nickname text, remove the text input, display nickname. Do one thing. Let's take the nickname text and display it. Okay, so we want the nickname text view to have the text of the text input basically. Okay, so nickname text view dot text should be equal to the text of text input, as simple as that. Now remove the text input. So let's try to remove the text input. So text input dot, now obviously removing is essentially the change in visibility, so let's try to write visibility equal to, now you don't know what to write here, right? You can't just write, let's say, gone. So it's wrong. Let's see what, so what we can guess is maybe we can write visibility equal to false. So let's try writing false. So let's see what the error is. The boolean does not conform to the expected type int. So it wants an integer type, right? So integer type, maybe we want something like 1 and 0. Let's try putting that. So 0. And it gives error. So must be one of view visible, view gone, and view invisible. Cool. So we now know that we want something like this. Now that's how you, programming is not about remembering each and every syntax. It's a mixture of googling, struggling with stuff, and at a later stage coding the things will be of your least priority, least priority, sorry. So it's more about designing things, so high level design, low level design, and all that stuff. So I mean, don't get too stuck on these things, that what exactly we are writing. Instead, try to understand like why we are writing it, why we are breaking the things into these functions, and all that stuff. Okay. So text inputs visibility is gone, and we want the button to be gone also. So button is essentially this view only, because this function will take the view from here, and the set on click listener calls the function with the parameter of the view on which it's called. So this set on click listener is set on this button, so it will give this button as a parameter. So what we do is view dot visibility and view gone. Cool. Let's see. Take the nickname text and display it. Go remove text, remove button. Okay, so I think everything looks fine. I mean, we will have to test it. So let's test it on the physical device only. Just a second. Okay, so let's write something here. So richness and press done. Okay, it's not visible, and I know why. So I mean, we said it's text to the text input text, but obviously we want to make it visible, right? Dot and one more thing I want to show you. So as you can see, the keyboard is still there. I mean, after we press the done button, the keyboard was not gone. So we want something to, I mean, disappear the keyboard, and I'm just gonna paste this thing. You can find it on the website in the description of the video. So it is same as the website in the previous session. So keyboard is actually one thing which creates a lot of problem, and I mean, this is the one thing which I don't want to explain it to you. So it will be better if you just copy paste this thing. Okay. Yeah. So these two lines here are basically to hide the keyboard, and I am just copy pasted it without explaining. Okay. And let's try to run this now. So here is our app. Let's try. So teachers, press the done button. Cool. So Sanchit Arora and nickname is there, and the keyboard is also gone. So that was all for, I mean, this app. The app is basically done, I guess. So you like learned about the scroll view, text input, and all that stuff. And okay, so let's actually, I want to show few more things. So for the first thing, let's say where is, so I increase the margin even more, so 80 and 80. Now it looks better. So I'm gonna run the app and show you something. So here is the app, and obviously you can scroll down. Let's say we scroll down fully. So we are on the text like wish me luck. Now we change the orientation of the phone. As you can see, we just got on the top again. So hello, I am Sanchit. Now even if we go back to the same orientation, voila, we are still on the top. I mean, it just didn't remember that we were on the bottom, so that it keeps the same thing on even on the orientation change. And the text is small here, but let's say you have a lot things to scroll, and by chance or explicitly you want to change the orientation, then it should not just forget where you were, so it should keep you there only. The scroll location should be there only. And actually it's very easy to do. So you simply need to give an ID to the scroll view. So Android ID, let's say scroll view. And now let's try again. Okay, so here I am on the app. Let's scroll down. We are on the bottom, wish me luck, and let's change the orientation. And as you can see, it remembered the orientation, so we are again on the wish me luck. It just didn't go on the top. And if you go back with the same orientation, yeah, it's on, so we are on the bottom, and on back when near the bottom. Okay, so there is slight change, but obviously we are not on the top. So it's, there can be slight change because of the orientation changes, but more or less you will be on the same location in the scroll by just giving this ID thing here. Okay, now what I want to discuss is basically data binding and view binding. So currently what we are doing is we are finding all the views by calling find view ID, maybe not again and again, but even one time. And what we are doing for the data, by data I mean the nickname value, is we are explicitly setting its value to whatever we want. So ideally the case should be that we have a common area where this code, for now let's call this as the backend code. So backend code changes the values in that area. So it says that the nickname should be this, and the front-end code, which is this, will automatically take that change. You understand, right? So we don't have to explicitly change the text here. So we are going to do this, and we want to remove this find view by ID, because even if you call it once, it is lot. Maybe not now, but if you have a very dense hierarchy, so let's say let me show you an image. So let's say you have something like this, and you want to find ID of this image view here, right? So it's very costly operation even if you do it once on the start of app or maybe on a page load or anything. So we can improve it even more by remembering this thing compile time. So what binding does is attach all the views to a binding object which is created on the compile time. So it will increase the compile time, but it will not use find view by ID. It will make more sense as we go along. So for that we are going to actually do some things. So let's go into Gradle scripts, and we want to go into build.gradle of module. So we have two build gradles here, one is of project and one is of module. In most of the cases you won't even touch the project module, project Gradle file. So let's go to the module Gradle file, and in that, after Kotlin options, just write data binding enabled equal to true. Okay, so these three lines here. Now this will enable the data binding, but remember that this will increase the compile time. Okay, now we want, okay, so sync now. Okay, let's go to main activity, and we want to do some changes here to initialize the binding object. So actually so basically we want the binding to store all these things, right? So what we have to do is, like, we will have to put another element here, layout. So layout, and I'm just gonna give you these things again on the website. You can check the description for that. So just put it here, remove this, go to the bottom, paste this, indent. Okay, yeah, so basically this will tell that we want to convert all these views here, and we want the binding object to, give us a binding to those views. Okay, now I think it should give us, sorry for all that stuff. So private or binding, cool. So it's now suggesting automatically. So activity main binding. Now activity main, so activity main is essentially derived from the name of your file only. Okay, so if you have a different XML file, this will change, and after that we just write binding. And as you can see, this gives an error, which is property must be initialized, etc, etc. And if you remember from the last lecture, for those values which we know that they won't be null or anything when the app starts, but we can't initialize it here, we do private late init. So what it means is, it tells the compiler that we promise that this value will not be null. Okay, so now what we have to do is initialize it on create. So we comment this set content view thing here, and we initialize binding. So binding is initialized by another thing, data binding util. Yeah, data binding util dot set content view. So set content view is this, but we are calling this from data binding util. Okay, so these basic things changes when you want to use the binding thing. So let's see what it takes. So it takes the first thing as activity. So activity is nothing but this activity. So it's this basically. So this refers to the object of this class only. Okay, so this class is main activity. So this is basically this. This refers to the object of this class only. Okay, so we can supply this. And second thing is, it says int, but int is basically, it wants to say that it wants the all the layout. So it's basically a resource, that's why it was saying int dot layout dot activity main. So basically this is same as this. So what was the change? We initialized binding with this. We called this, instead of calling the default set content view, we called the set content view which was on data binding util, and it, other than this parameter here, it also takes the activity which is like this. Okay, so binding is done. Now what we can do is, we don't need all this thing, and what we can do instead is simply binding dot done button. Yeah, so binding dot done button dot set on click listener blah blah blah. And similarly, we don't need this, we don't need this also. What we will do is text input is equal to binding dot nickname edit, and nickname text view equal to binding dot nickname text. I think that was all we were using. So find view by ID, yeah. So let's try to see if it really works or not. I mean, we did all that stuff, changes. Let's try. Attribute XML and was already specified for element linear layout. Okay, so okay, we by default had this thing. Okay, so let's remove it from here. These both things are same. Okay, so I'm not gonna give you, this is not needed actually. So let's remove this. You already had these two lines. So I have actually run perfectly. So let me show you. Teachers, press done, and yep. And what you can do is, I mean, if you want little different, is nickname text and put it here. And in the main activity, what you can do is text nickname text view by plus. Let me show you. For some reason it's not opening. I don't know why. It's crashing. What exactly I did here? Okay. So as I told you, scroll view only takes one child element. So we will need this from where text element came. So we will need this linear layout. And we will put it here, and we want to close it here. Yup. Now I guess it should work. Yeah, it's working now. So scrolling thing is working. What is your nickname? My nickname is Teachers. Done. And yep, by Teachers. So I think I forgot to add a little space, but I think you get the idea, right? Okay. String style, we don't need this, let's clear some stuff. We are here. Okay, so yeah, you just write this thing here and everything will work fine. Now comes the second part of mining, which is data mining. So what we did now is known as basically view binding. So you can take all the views just by this binding object here. Okay, so now we are going to do that data mining stuff, which I told you that there should be a central location where the Kotlin file do the changes and the XML file take the changes from there only. So for that we first need to create a data class. So let me show you what data class is. Yep. So basically data class is nothing but a class which obviously takes some initial constructor parameter, but it provides some helper functions for all that. So equal, toString, copy, all that stuff. So it just a type of class basically. You can read more about it here. So what I'm gonna do for now is directly start. You don't need to understand everything about data class. You just need to get this idea that data class is essentially the storage space for all the data stuff. Okay. So what I will do is create a data class. Let's create it here only. So data class. Now comes the class name, and class names as a convention start with the uppercase letter. So let's say my name. I'm naming it my name, but it will like store both name and nickname. So var is basically for variables that can change, if you remember from the last lecture. So it's of the type string, and initially let's say it's empty. And var nickname, it's also of the type string, and initially it is also empty. Okay, and we need to now create a object of this class, right? So this is just a class, and we will now create its object. So private. So we are using VAL here, which means that the variable will not change, where it simply means that the object will not change. The properties of the object can change, and by properties I mean the name and the nickname can change. It says that object itself cannot change. Okay. So my name, it's of the type my name, and let's initialize it with name Sanchit Arora. Nickname, I will not specify anything, so it will by default take empty string. Okay. Now we want to refer to this object from the binding object, and binding object is here, and by default binding does not do that. So what we need to do is binding dot my name equal to my name, as simple as that. So we assign my name to my. Okay, so this is giving an error, but as soon as you rebuild the gradle and all that stuff, the error will go, so don't worry about that. Okay, so this is done. We created a data class, we created an object of the data class, we assigned that object to binding, and now the last thing left is to take the data from this binding class in the XML file. Okay, so where is that? Yeah, so we don't need this resource anymore, the name string resource. Instead what we are gonna do is, so this is the syntax, please. Yeah, now we write here whatever we need. So we need my name dot name. So my name is the object name, or this thing, and then it has a name attribute, a name property with it, and it's also giving the error for the same reason. As soon as you rebuild, it will get over. So my name is okay, and actually we will have to create a data thing here. Variable name, my name, and type com dot example dot about me dot my name. Yep. So ignore all these errors for now. This will go away, I promise. Okay, and let's go to the string resource, because we should clear this thing, right? It doesn't make sense to store it now. Yep, the error is gone somehow. We don't need button, edit text view. Let's remove all that stuff. And okay, the error was gone from here also. Cool. That's really great. Actually, let's try to run this on the app also, so to confirm that everything's working fine, right? So let me show you, everything is actually working in fine. Cool. Now we want to do this for nickname also, obviously. So what we will do is, where is the nickname thing? Nickname. Okay, we don't have text here. No issue. So not text size, let's check text. So my name dot nickname, now it's suggesting. Cool. So we have the nickname here, and we want to change this nickname. So nickname dot text. So instead of this, what we will do is binding dot my name dot nickname equal to by plus dot text. We don't need this. Cool. So we change the nickname binding here, and it should be visible here. Now let's try running the app again. Okay, what's it saying? Okay, no issue, let's do it this way. Let me show you the app now. So write the nickname teachers, done. Something really bad happened here. Let's see what we did. This looks actually fine to me. Let's see activity main. Oh shit, we wrote this in edit text. It should be written here instead. So here what we want to do is, basically when we are using binding, then it just does not, change the UI. So for changing the UI, what we want to do is binding dot invalidate all. now everything should work. And actually I think I can show you something more. So let's say we replace this nickname text view by binding dot nickname text, and yeah, so now we have these three statements all doing something with binding. Okay, so binding actually provides us a way to do it in short form, and that is basically binding dot apply. Now if you remember again, this thing here is just a lambda function which is given as a parameter. Okay, so it's nothing going crazy here. So we do this and we remove all these binding calls. Yep, let's try again. Try but don't cry. Okay, let's see now. So teachness done, and by teachness. Okay, great. So this app is done now, and as I told you, we actually have another app to build. So this was the app I was hoping to build, but I think we don't have much time to do it. So most probably I will just put the recording of this thing on YouTube and you can go through it. So this is not going to be a lot complex, and to be honest, the coding part will be a little less in this case. I mean, it's just playing around with the design thing. So I will put the recording there only. And now before ending on, I actually have two challenges basically to give you. So, and I hope you really do them, because that's how you will learn. I mean, obviously you will struggle, you will have to Google a lot, but you can do it. Okay, so the first is, if you have noticed, when we start the app, the text input is empty, so user explicitly have to press on that to start typing. So instead we want to automatically focus on the text input thing and also open the keyboard. So I know I told you that playing with keyboard is a little tricky stuff, and it will be tricky. I mean, it's not something that will be easy, but I can say you that it will be similar to this only. Okay, so few Google search, few Stack Overflow answers will give you how to do this thing. And secondly, what you can do is remove the button completely, and also change the nickname text on change of text input. Okay, so we don't want to hide, or we don't want to do this thing here. We don't want to hide the text input once the user is done with typing their nickname. So the text input will be there, and no matter how many times you change that, the nickname text should also change. The nickname text which was on bottom of the screen, this thing should also change. So you will probably have, okay, so I won't tell you how to do this, but for any change in the input, you should also change this. Okay, so that's what you will have to do. So I will discuss these two things if you want. So you can comment if you want me to discuss two things, but I think it won't be very difficult, so please give it a try, and I will see you in the next session. And if you're watching this video on YouTube and you are here till now, I hope you really like the video. So press the like button, and if you want to view all the sessions, please subscribe to the channel also, and do not forget to share this with all your friends. So that was all from my side. Thank you, and see you in the next session. Bye bye.